geographers, and welcome to the latest video of the CVA Geography YouTube channel. Please can you write the title, the demographic transition model, and complete the do now. So please pause it now and then complete the do now for me. Thank you. Perfect, well done guys. Just to check, these are the answers you should have got, so please pause it here and mark your answers based on this. Awesome, so let's crack on with today. Just before we start, this is where the lesson's going to finish with the blue zone. Some exam questions around the demographic transition model. Here are all the exam questions. I'll go through them when we get to the end. Okay. So today we're looking at the link between the stages of the demographic transition model and levels of development. What I need you to do is write down the key words. We've got demographic transition model, which is a geographical model that uses birth rate and death rate and total population to show you how a country's population changes as they develop. We've got natural increase, which is population growth as there are more births than deaths, and natural decrease, which is population shrinks as there are more deaths than births. Please just jot down these keywords for me. Awesome. So we've seen this slide before. Global development happens on a sort of a timeline continuum. So countries go from being LICs through to HICs, and this model happens over time. So all countries were once LICs, like Britain 1,000 years ago, and over time we went from being a LIC to a newly emerging economy in the Industrial Revolution to a high-income country today. And the more you develop towards HIC, the better quality of life gets for people. This then links us into the demographic transition model, which is this somewhat confusing graph you might think. Hopefully I will be able to talk you through it and reassure you that it's not actually that bad. So the graph shows birth rate and death rate. These are measured per 1,000 people per year in a country. It shows the total population, and then what we can see is stage 1 over to stage 5, and these happen in terms of development. So stage 1 is a low income country or sort of tribal community, and stage 5 is a high income country. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk through each stage. What I suggest you do is in each, just make notes as we go. So when I say stage 1, I'd write down what the birth rate and death rate is like, what the total population is like, and maybe a reason for this. And then do the same for 2, 3, 4, 5. So in stage 1 of the demographic transition model, this is extremely low development. Okay, so the birth rate and death rate are both really high, and the total population is low. There are no countries that are in this stage, however some tribes in the Brazilian rainforest still do fit into this. So what you need to write down, stage 1, birth and death rate high, total population low, and then we need to write down a reason why this is the case. So why this is happening is the birth rate is high because there is no contraception, and because families have a lot of children because they don't know how many will survive. The death rate is high because they have no access to healthcare, cannot access clean water, so there's a spread of disease. So in stage 1, birth and death rate is high. This is due to lack of contraception, and then the death rate is high due to lack of healthcare and lack of clean water. We then move on to stage 2. Okay, in stage 2 we can see the birth rate remains really high, but the death rate, it falls rapidly, and as this happens, the total population increases really quickly, and this is called natural increase, more births than deaths. Example countries could be Gambia, Afghanistan, any LIC, and what we need to know is why is this happening. So what's key here is the death rate starts to fall. This is because there is access to basic healthcare, so people can be treated from cure preventable deaths. Also, there is a start of people earning higher wages, so people can afford basic food and water, so people are living longer. The birth rate is still really high in stage 2. This is because large proportions of population LIC are living in rural areas and they're farmers, so this means people have large families in order for children to work on the farm. In addition, there is also a lack of contraception still. So stage 2, summary, birth rate high as people have large families to work on farms. Death rate rapidly falling due to advancements in basic healthcare to treat preventable diseases. We then come to stage 3, newly emerging economies. What we start to see here is the birth rate starts to fall rapidly and the death rate still continues to go down. Where the birth rate is higher than the death rate, the population in NEEs is still rapidly increasing. Example countries are China, Nigeria, India, Brazil. So we need to know why this is happening. Okay, so the birth rate starts to fall because, one, contraception is now available, so people have choice whether they have children or not, and two, the majority of people in newly emerging economies are migrating to urban areas to get jobs in factories or in secondary and tertiary industries. This means they no longer require a large family to work, so people have the choice to have less children. The death rate is continuing to decrease. This is because the quality of life is still improving. People have a steady income so they can start to have healthier diets, they can access better healthcare, so people are living longer lives. So summary, birth rate is falling rapidly, death rate is still going down. Birth rate falls because people no longer need children to work, so they live in cities, and death rate still goes down as the country is getting richer so people can afford better healthcare, better foods. We then get to stage 4 of the demographic transition model, and what we can see here is the birth rate is still going down and the death rate is really quite low now. The population is high, but it's not really growing anymore. Example countries are high income countries like the UK, France, USA. So why is this happening? Why is the birth rate still falling? Well, one reason this is women are educated to the same level as men. Women have the same employment opportunities, so many women are choosing to now pursue a career rather than having children. This then leads the birth rate to drop. The death rate remains very low because in these countries the healthcare is very high, so diseases such as cancers, heart disease can be treated, so people can therefore live longer lives. And then finally we get to stage 5, extremely highly developed countries. The birth rate is still falling and now it's below the death rate. The death rate is still low, and what we see here is where the birth rate drops below the death, we have natural decrease. Countries this is happening in is high income countries like Japan, and why this is happening is many women, the birth rate is low I should say, due to many women focusing on their careers over having a family. In addition, childcare is really expensive. People would rather have a higher quality of life than spend money on paying for childcare and raising a family, so the birth rate drops. The death rate, it can't drop anymore because these countries already have a high proportion of older people, they've got immaculate healthcare, healthy diets, so the death rate sort of just plateaus where it is. Right, so what we've got are some exam questions for you. So if you're not sure, please rewind and go back and listen to any of the 5 stages. The questions I want you to do are as followed. So question 1, describe how the birth rate is changing in stage 3. Just give it one word answer. B, give a reason for this change. 2, describe how the death rate is changing in stage 2. One word answer. B, give a reason for this change. Question 3, explain why the population is low in stage 1 of the demographic transition model. You need to think, why is the birth rate and death rate both high? Question 4, using the figure, suggest why population change in stage 3 might have economic benefits. So you really need to think here in stage 3, as the population increases, how is that going to lead to the country becoming economically richer? Number 4, outline a limitation of a single measure of development, like life expectancy. That's linking back to previous lessons. Question 5, using figure 2, suggest how GNI per capita would change between stage 2 and 5. So how would wages change between 2 and 5? What is meant by infant mortality rate? And question 7, suggest why HDI is a more reliable measure of development than life expectancy. Again, that links back to previous learnings. So please pause the video here, answer your 7 questions. If it's for revision purposes, please email it to your teacher to mark. If this is for catch-up, please bring in your work and stick it into your exercise book and show your teacher. Please remember to like and subscribe to stay up to date with all geography lessons on the YouTube channel, and have a great day. Thank you.